here we are, Greg, in Cortina. We're going to get to why we're here in just a moment. But I was intrigued on the journey here as to the state of your playlist. You didn't know where I was going with that.
Yes.
You have a deep and I would say mostly secret obsession, I think it's fair to say, with Nsync.
Obsession, because I know where you're going. It's not Nsync, it's just boy bands in general.
Oh, right.
Really. It was, I have a deep knowledge. I used to secretly listen when I was a bit younger. I used to hide behind other things, be that some hip-hop and rap and some house music, whatever else. But I obviously liked a bit of boy band.
We're going through a hierarchy.
Hang on, you were the one, I think we need to start this. You were the one that was very keen to listen to boy bands. It just so happens that I had it on my phone. So you initiated this.
But because I thought, oh, random, and I actually did it because I thought it might annoy you, and I thought your musical taste might be quite different.
And Pete as well.
And Pete, the producer. But you two then started to discuss how it was bringing you back to your school discos and times gone by when you were reprobate of a teenager.
Yeah.
What's your favourite Nsync song?
The thing is, there's so many good ones. It's very difficult to put my finger on just one. I don't know, maybe Tearing Up My Heart's a pretty good one.
I do like that you're giving this proper consideration.
No, I am. I mean, these things are important, though. Like
nobody cares.
your boy band picks, I mean, they're important.
They are.
People
they are,
care.
though.
There's people at home listening now that are going, I love a boy band. What is his favourite? What's your favourite?
Backstreet Boys for me. Backstreet's back. All right.
Don't do that again. No, but I think Backstreet Boys are probably better.
Yeah. You would have done the dance as well.
It's not karaoke with all
I know,
that.
which is a shame. I will get to why we're here in a moment, but mentioning karaoke also brings me to a fun fact about you from your Wikipedia. We're not sure if it's still on your Wikipedia, but according to Wikipedia, you're a big karaoke fan,
Massive
Greg.
fan, apparently, yeah. I have never sung karaoke in my life. For some reason, people people ask me about it. And actually, if I go on certain panel shows and things, they go, "Oh, we thought we'd ask you about karaoke." I'm like, I know nothing about karaoke. Never done it. I've once weirdly ended up in a karaoke bar in a bit of like a dungeon in central London. I'm not sure how I ended up there. It was on birthday. But we walked in, it felt a bit weird, and we left again because I'm not sure it's just a karaoke bar. So that's the closest I've ever been to karaoke. Know nothing about it.
That makes me sad. I feel like you've missed out. If I'd known this, we were in Tokyo together for the Olympics. If I'd known this pre-Tokyo, I would have hunted down a karaoke bar.
Well, they are famous there, I guess, aren't they?
There. Pardon?
They are famous in Tokyo as well.
That's where they're from, aren't they? I'm not sure. Check Wikipedia.
Anyway.
It knows. Anyway, why are we in Tuscany, Greg?
Well, first and foremost,
we're not in Tuscany. We're in Cortina.
No,
we were in Tuscany yesterday for a different interview.
So
why are we in Cortina?
Well, first of all, I think it's interesting, isn't it? We decided we're going to do this podcast, and now I have become a guest on the podcast, and it feels
so unusual because you don't like talking about yourself.
No, but it's a weird thing now as well, because I move myself, even though I've very recently been involved in another sport, I don't know, I've moved myself away a little bit from it in my head. I don't know, it's a weird one now.
What, from being on the answering end of this scenario, you mean?
Well, yeah, the person asking the questions, because we've been speaking to some amazing people, and I see myself differently again, if you know what I mean. So then to sort of retouch on, I guess, my sporting career and things that may or may not happen in the future. So as you mentioned, so we're obviously in Cortina, and in 4 years' time, there will be, or just under 4 years' time, there will be another Winter Olympics. I don't know if famously, but I recently at least tried the bobsleigh, and
with success, it has to be said.
Relative success, yeah. I mean, look, the ultimate goal was, of course, to go to the Olympic Games in Beijing. It didn't happen for a number of reasons. But the possibility of potentially pushing myself to maybe go to one more Olympics, it's still there a little bit. It's still there. And I've learnt the skill of bobsleigh now. So it makes life a bit easier. I'm not desperately trying to understand the sport, which I did in the 9 months leading up to the Beijing Olympics. And the team is changing a little bit. Lamin will retire. Our driver Luke Dawes, who was in there as well, he's now starting to drive, and Sam as well. I mean, like, a fantastic athlete. Sam Blanchet he's just great rugby background, great bobsledder as well. And there's the spine of a team there potentially with me as well. So. Potentially.
Don't give us potentially, Greg. Are you going to go for the next Winter Olympic Games here in Cortina?
I think I probably will. This is the thing. Like, I struggle with putting my family and friends through the stress that I do, because there is a lot of stress that comes with being involved with sport. But there's also this still desire to just keep pushing myself. And I think now, as I say, I know the skill, I can do it, and I did it well when I was doing it, apart from the injuries, which hurt quite a lot. It gives me an opportunity to maybe push myself again. Look, I know probably after the next Winter Olympics, the chance of me being able to do any more sports is probably over. I'll be too old. I'm already battered. So the idea is maybe, and this was always the idea, I guess, when I came back into sport, use what's left in my body to see if I can make it in a sport one more time, and then sail off into the sunset.
You're
in
not
pain.
going to... Yeah, what's left of your body, though? That's the question. You've got a herniated disc in your neck. You've got multiple hernias in your stomach. You're still recovering from a fractured shoulder. Why on earth would you go through all of that again?
Well, when you put it like that, I think maybe I should just not bother, No, it's really difficult for me to put my finger on why I want to. Look, I love my new career and what I've been doing, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But there's always...
Don't worry, we'll still hang out.
There is a thing. I'm trying not to be mean. Like, I'm just
I know.
comments
You
at
were
but I'm not
pausing
gonna.
for a second.
I'm not going to.
Am I going to be the person I am off microphone, or am I going to keep it up? No, keep being nice.
I'm a nice person.
Just not to me. Go ahead.
No, it's one of those things that there's always time for me to do other things as well. And I still train. I like to train because I like to stay fit and healthy. I'm currently unable to train due to the injuries that I picked up predominantly through bobsleigh. But with time, once I recover, once I'm back out again, why not? And this is the big thing. Look, a lot of people were going, why on earth are you doing this? And there is the big side of it is, why not? If I said to you, Ollie, if I said right now, right, so for anybody who listened to Mark Cavendish talk, we found out that Orla is a two-time Irish triple jump champion. Two-time, which you're very proud of. I'm very proud of you. Mark was incredibly proud.
Yeah, he was a little bit more gracious, I have to say.
We're all very proud of you. Everyone listening is very proud of you.
Oh, and it's not patronising, so keep going.
But if I could say, on a serious note, if I could say to you tomorrow, if you trained for the next year, 18 months, whatever else, you have a good chance of making the Olympic Games, you would do it, wouldn't you?
Yes, of course,
right.
I would. And it was my childhood dream. But I've never been to an Olympic Games. You've been to an Olympic Games.
I've never been to a Winter Olympic Games, though.
No, but you've tasted the very heights of success. You've done it. For me, it would be something I've never done before and something very few people get to do. You've done it. You've ticked it off.
Well, yes and no. I mean, as I said, I went, look, my second Olympics, I became Olympic champion, right? I didn't then go at that point, that's it, me done. I don't need to worry about anything anymore. I can move on and leave it. You always want to achieve more, and you always want to strive to better yourself. And then I went to Rio, of course, that was the last Olympics that I competed in. And then here we are. And I sort of thought after that, career in sport was finished, because my world was long jumping, as ridiculous as it is. And I say to everybody, I ran in a straight line and I jumped into a sandpit. It was a ridiculous lifestyle, but I loved it. I loved everything about it, and I loved what came with that, the mental and physical pressures that come with professional sport. Now, what a lot of people also think when we talk about these sorts of things is they think, I just can't let it be. Like he's desperate to go back to those glory days. And do you know what? It's not that as such, because fundamentally, with regards to the bobsleigh, once I really got into it and realised, I understood that winning a medal was going to be very, very difficult, but I started to appreciate the difficulties of just making an Olympic Games again. Now, during my long jump term, it was all about winning. Like, everything was about winning, and that's all I ever wanted to do. My mindset from a young age was going to Olympic Games and winning it, and everything about it was that. So with the bobsleigh, at first, of course, I went in and I thought, you know what, maybe we have a chance here, you know. And then you realise that actually it's not, well, the team that we had, that wasn't going to happen, sadly. So going forwards, again, I sort of feel like, well, look, if I had the opportunity to go to another Olympic Games, and look, if we put the team together and the full, because it 6 guys you need for it, because we have to have a couple of reserves, we can get a really good team together. You never know. Because you never know in professional sport.
You say why not, and I've listed the why nots: the herniated disc in your neck, the hernia, the fractured shoulder. I mean, I'm sure it would be a wonderful thing, but what intrigues me about you, and I know it's not that you just can't let go of it, but it feels to me like you constantly need a challenge. You need to put yourself out there and prove to yourself what you can do.
Yeah,
Where does that come from?
That's a fair assessment. Yeah, I mean, it will, no matter what I would do. And look, once my sporting life is completely over and I know that my body can't do it anymore, there will obviously be things that I will challenge myself. Now, I go on holiday to Phoenix in Arizona a lot, right? And there's a reason I'm getting to this, not just saying I have these great holidays. And there's a mountain in the middle of Phoenix. You got Camelback Mountain, and I love hiking it, right? One of my best friends, Steve Lewis, lives out there, former pole vaulter, former British record holder in pole vault, was my roommate for years. We've travelled the world together. And we go out and stay with him, and we hike it. And then very quickly, Steve's been retired a long time now, very quickly turned into power hiking. So how quickly can we do it? Then with the likes of your Stravas, your other apps that track whatever you're doing, all of a sudden, then you're competitive with people. And there is, of course, there's something there, and there's something within me that likes competing. I enjoy competing. I like the physical and mental challenges of competing. But equally, what I would say is that I'm very good at turning it on and off. So I can turn on being competitive with things that I know I'm good at because, well, I want to be better at it and I want to be good at it. But equally, if you're better at something than I am, which we're looking for at the moment.
I knew you'd have to get a dig in. Rock, paper, scissors, but keep going.
Well, we'll see how that goes. But with those sorts of things, I'm very happy to not be the best at things. And I think a lot of people, again, with sportsmen and women that they've ever met, whatever, they think everything has to be a challenge. And people are like, oh, I bet you eat your dinner and try and beat your kids and all that sort of stuff and whatever. And it's like, no, because I'm very happy in my day-to-day life. I'm very comfortable with who I am as a person. And because of that, I don't have to be competitive all the time. But if somebody challenges me, okay, I'll be competitive, of course, which you have found out, Orla. And certain
to
other
my
friends
detriment several times.
But most of the time, I'm relatively extroverted in a lot of situations, and I love talking to people, I love being involved. But if I go into a room of people I don't know, and I can see there's some dude who would have been a professional football player if it wasn't for the knee injury that he sustained at 16, and he's trying to, you get a lot of that, and you're trying to, they're trying to alpha the room as it is. I'm very happy to be very quiet. I don't feel I have to prove anything, whatever else. I'll have fun or whatever else, but I'm very happy to let other people crack on, take the lead and do whatever. So I don't have to be competitive all the time.
Yeah, but that's also easy when you're in a room that is there for you and you're there discussing an Olympic gold medal. What I'm intrigued by, not even so much that competitive nature, because I have it as well, and it's why I keep trying to find something I can do that you can't, and I haven't found any yet. But it's that you set yourself, or you're planning even to set yourself even bigger challenges and publicly. You know, is that I was sort of half joking with you in the flight over yesterday, and I said, do you just like the attention? Are you craving the attention? Are you though?
I would say craving the attention. Look, of course, it's very nice when people remember the physical things that I managed to do and push my body and do. Now, the big thing is, with what I did in a jumping sense now bobsleigh sense or whatever else, is that there's a massive story that comes behind that, and generally it's a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. I failed many more times than I ever succeeded. So then when you do succeed, the feeling is unlike anything else you could ever wish to feel. A bit like when the bells go off, it's perfect timing. As if
just sets the scene
quite
beautifully.
Profound. Just need now the pigeons to fly up. No, but it is, there's something about it that it's incredible, and people see the moments you stand on the podium, etc., and they're the moments that everybody remembers, and that's amazing. And then there's that medal that's given to you, and it's the tangible thing, and it's all of that's incredible. But obviously for me, there's always the memories of overcoming adversity generally, and I think that's something that my brain and body is just very happy to sort of maintain and go with. And look, what comes with that is, of course, attention at times. It's not like I don't crave attention. I just like pushing myself. I like. Do you know, maybe there's a residual, now we think about it, you know, this is turning into therapy.
I like it.
So maybe there is residual, and look, probably chatting to Mark, who makes me think of Mark Cavendish, this is of course, who we've had an amazing conversation with. It's still trying to prove people wrong in one way, but it's not as, it's weird for me. I don't have to prove anything anymore. Like, I did it and I was very happy, successful with it. But I don't know, maybe it's just like, I like throwing myself into the gauntlet, if you like, and just testing myself. And I love that people think I can't do things. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. It's not an attention. Like, I'm very happy to sit at home quietly or walk around in my garden, look after my chickens, dogs, whatever else.
But you're not.
No,
you're not.
No, I am from time. But then equally, I have to then push myself for something, be that with training, be that with a challenge, be that we're covering an Olympic Games together as we did in Tokyo, and all of a sudden you're hearing in your ear, you've got seconds until you're about to go live, you don't want to bugger it up, basically. Like, that sort of thing. But those pressure moments, I absolutely live for them. I love it. I love the idea of things potentially going wrong, because I also know, probably deep down, there's people at home that wish that I do get it wrong, and wish me ill.
Do you think that though, or do you try to look that? We asked this of Mark Cavendish. Do you try to seek that out to give you something to fight against, to feed your chippiness, if you like?
I think probably with everybody that we've spoken to and discussed with this, there is a level of trying to prove people wrong. I think within your life, when you are on that sporting route, because people have different agendas or people want other people to do well, you're always trying to prove somebody wrong. And then maybe that is difficult to let go of, I don't know. Because the other difficult you have, and again, every guest has had to experience it, is that situation of everybody's looking in at what you do, and everybody has an opinion, good or bad. And you always remember the bad ones, probably a lot more than the good ones. You'll have exactly the same, be that by Twitter, whatever else. Everybody, no matter what walk of life you're having, you're at work, you've done an amazing thing, and then somebody makes a snarky comment. The fact that you've had 20 people tell you how amazing the job was, you go home at night and you think about what that one person said. And that's always, I think, what's going on. That's something that sticks with you and lasts. And something I also found fascinating, years ago, when I said I was going to give the skeleton a go, which I did give the skeleton a go, Skeleton Bob, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember putting it on Twitter then that I wanted to go give it a go. And it was amazing, the response that I got from people just going, how dare you think that you can give another sport a go, stick to long jumping, all that sort of stuff. Whereas in America, where I spent a lot of time, and I speak to Americans, they love it. They love the idea of you challenging yourself and giving it a go, and they'll back you 100% until you fail. And there's something about that which I really like, and I think that's surely how you should approach things. But I think the way we are in the UK means that we aren't willing to challenge ourselves, we're not willing to push ourselves. And actually, on one level, I'm happy to throw myself out there and absorb any crap that comes with it for it going wrong, because it doesn't bother me too much. So if I succeed, I'm proving what I think is possible for everyone. I think no matter what walk of life you're in and what you've done, we've been within sport, business, whatever it is, I think you can try new things, you can challenge yourself. I think for a lot of people involved in the world of sport in particular, the careers may not go how they want it, they may end early, they may have injuries, issues, whatever else. There's something else you can try, and don't be afraid to try that. And that's what the bobsleigh was for me as well. I knew there was a risk it could fail, I knew people would love it if I failed as well. But I was happy to give it a go because, again, why not?
Do you see your bobsleigh journey then as being a success or a failure? You wanted to get to the Olympics, you wanted to get a medal.
Yes, I'm still processing that now, to be totally honest, because the irony of the whole thing is, even if we did qualify for the Games, I wouldn't have been able to have gone because of my neck. So it would have been a massive double-edged sword of so happy that my friends had made the Games, but knowing that I wasn't there due to the fact that I'd got injured. I believed I could make the Olympic Games 100%. I believe I'm physically gifted enough to make the Olympic Games as a bobsledder 100%. It just wasn't to be, and there's multiple reasons. And this is always the other thing as well. You're relying on other people. Our team changed dramatically from the first competition through to the last. And I think if we had the team that we had at the end, plus maybe a couple of the other guys as well, that would have been a solid team that would have made the Olympic Games. So that's also there as well. But I don't know, you're right. Is it a failure? On one hand, yes, because I didn't. The goal was to go to the Olympic Games. I told everybody I could make the Olympic Games. I didn't make the Olympic Games. So yes, I failed in one of the core aspects of the challenge. But what I did do, in 9 months from not being an athlete anymore, I became an athlete again. I made the British team. I competed on the World Cup circuit, the highest level, below the World Championships and the Olympics. And I was in the team. So I achieved, I proved within 9 months I can go from a very unfit former athlete to being an international athlete again.
See, this is where you really impress me though, because this is the problem with setting any kind of a challenge, whether it's in the public eye like you are, or for most of us just doing it in front of friends or families or colleagues, or you know, even saying to people, I'm going to go for a promotion. Most people will not say that, because if they don't get that promotion, it will be seen as a failure, not by themselves necessarily, But the fact that you even took so long to get to that answer, yes, it probably was a failure, because you've taken from that everything that you have learned as you've gone along. And I think that difficulty for most people in taking the positives out of not getting their goal is so difficult that it stops them from setting the goal in the first place.
Yeah, massively. And I still think that I've been very lucky to travel the world, and I really feel like it's just a terribly British thing to be concerned about championing yourself and backing yourself.
But most people will be living, a lot of people listening to this will be living, for example, in the UK, and they'll be surrounded by that. So you can't really escape it. You've got more of an international life, I guess, or more international experience and friends and whatnot. But how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that way of thinking when everyone around you is thinking like that?
You have to start believing solely in yourself. That is the big thing. Look, nobody else is going to back you. And I found this very early on in sport in particular. So once you back yourself 100%, look, I believed without any form of doubt or question at times in my career that I was the best in the world at that time. And I went in with that level of confidence and belief, and that's why I won, because I wasn't the most talented. I wasn't the great, it's a fact I'm not the greatest ever long jumper of all times, but I was so mentally strong, and that came from taking so many knocks, but just having a belligerent belief that I will have my day, I'll have my moment, and I'll prove that I can do it. And I appreciate that's very, very difficult to do, but
it's so hard to do. Every time you get knocked down and knocked down and knocked down, you think, okay, maybe it's time. Maybe the universe is telling me I've got to give up now. I've got to try something else.
Look, fundamentally, if you're trying to be an astronaut and like you're rubbish or whatever else, that sort of stuff, I don't know. Like unrealistic goals, of course. I appreciate that. But look, most people get into a vocation in life which they love doing and they can progress in and whatever else. No matter what that is, if you find some form of enjoyment within it, you do have to back yourself 100% when you are doing it. Because, look, it's not easy. I have a bit of an issue, if I'm totally honest, with the way sport is perceived in schools in particular now. I feel like sport is an incredible way of teaching you how to win and lose, okay? And what we're seeing now, and from when I go speak in schools, my children obviously at school, etc. There's no desire to champion children that are good at sport anymore. It's all about
again, I think that's quite a British thing. I live in the Netherlands, and competitive sport is huge for kids.
Yeah, so maybe it is a British thing now. And what we're teaching children, in my opinion, now is that, it's okay, everybody wins, well done. Well, great to be there. And yes, of course it is. That mass participation in sport is incredible. And
you've got to learn to lose.
You have to learn to lose. And you have to give children the opportunity to feel that. You shouldn't mother them at left, right and centre. And I feel, especially some of the younger generation that are coming through that I speak to now as well, it's as if everything... They should win at it rather than actually working at it. And I speak to young athletes. Now, I can't obviously speak to everybody in business or whatever else, but I speak to young athletes, and the level of, well, of course, I should be getting this, or I should be earning that, or I should be in this competition. And you think, in the short amount of time from when I retired, it's completely changed. The mindset has changed, and I think that's coming from a young age of being told everybody is a winner, everybody is equal, etc. When you're not. When you go into the big wide world, you go for that job interview with 20 other people and there's one job. Only one person's winning on that day. And that comes down to the best credentials and maybe if the face fits, whatever else it might be. But you have to work hard at things. You have to fail. You have to pick yourself back up. But you have to back yourself. If you don't back yourself, you won't achieve what you want to do. And of course, there are going to be so many times when it goes wrong. And this is what I was trying to get across with my career. Look, I love the fact that now people remember me becoming an Olympic champion and world champion and whatever else. But my first Olympics, I finished 10th. My last Olympics, I finished 3rd. In my first World Championships, I finished 23rd. It was seen as a success in 2009 when I finished 5th and became the highest ranked Brit in a long jump, because it's very niche. But it's one of those things that I lost far more. But what I always did is backed myself knowing that at some point, or hoping at some point, I would have that moment, because you have to be slightly belligerent with it. And look, of course, if it's causing you severe stress, strain, or financial difficulty, whatever else, then of course, look, who am I to say you've got to stick with it? Like, if you've got to support yourself and a family, whatever else, then of course maybe you have to move on. but you have to be prepared to lose. It's one of the biggest lessons in life. You lose, you learn so much more from your losses than you do the wins.
See, this is so true, and I feel it's so easy to say, and it's sometimes even easy to listen to if you're not losing at life in that particular stage. But losing at anything is so hard. Believing in yourself is so hard, because as a species, we seek approval. We need approval. We need people to back us. How on earth do you, or is that something that you're maybe born with, that belief in yourself? But how do you build that up whenever things are difficult or people are wishing you to fail?
I think probably from that point of view, and this goes for any walk of life, surround yourself with the right team. You want to find a team, and that can be friends, family, whatever, work colleagues, the whole lot. Now, look, in a business sense, it's very easy. And I do a lot of keynote speaking when I talk about it, and I can compare sporting teams to obviously business teams, because what you find is that if you put a team around you to try and achieve an end product, an end goal, if those people around you are there to help you thrive, then you're in a great position in order to do it. Of course, they have to be qualified. I mean, don't just bring your mate from school into your banking business. It can't count. I mean, like, that's not going to be good. But of course, you create a team, and you hire and fire to create a team that can help you flourish. Now, you have to be prepared, no matter what, to make sacrifices to that team. Now, in a sporting sense, that for me meant getting rid of friendship groups, meant getting rid of coaches, physios, whatever else, bringing in the right people, being associated to the right people that can help you flourish. I was very, very lucky. Dan Paff in 2009, one of the greatest coaches, not just track and field, just movement coaches in the world, came to the UK. He was brought in to try and help British athletics because we were struggling. I got a chance to work with him. I'd always wanted to work with him. Without Dan Paff, I would never have won a major title. But I had to remove the team that I had around me. I had to say goodbye to them. I had to get into Dan's team. Physios, the whole lot, changed everything, because I knew and had belief in that team as well. Their CV, if you like, spoke absolute volumes. I mean, Dan Paff was Donovan Bailey's coach in '96 when he became world record holder and Olympic champion in the 100 metres for Canada. I mean, he's worked with some of the greats, Tiger Woods, Maria Sharapova, whatever. There's so many in different sports to help them develop and become great, that of course I felt that was going to work. And it wasn't always easy. I mean, the first year or so it wasn't great. I sort of went backwards, but I believed so much within that team. And you obviously, of course, mentioned we as human beings love being championed, love being built up, love being told that we're doing well, but equally you have to have the people around you that are telling you when it's not going well, and have to help you figure out what is going wrong in your life, because it's very difficult for one person to unpack everything and move forward with it, because you will always be hyper self-critical. I'm massively self-critical of everything I do, I appear on. We ever do any work together, and I'm always looking back going, oh, you look like an idiot. My God, I hate your voice. There's probably a few people here
is that
saying,
me?
Yeah, that's just me. Yeah. I'm great. No, but I'm my worst critic, right? I'm my harshest critic. Like,
I think that's a good thing.
Tomorrow. Of course it is, but equally at times when I'm seeing something that's awful, or I perceive as awful, others will look at that and go, oh, don't be stupid. And that's the flip side of it as well. I'm hypercritical because I want to be good, and I want to succeed, and I want to better myself. That's how I saw my career as well in sport. And people like having Dan Paff, Jerry Ramagita, my friends and family that I had around me, they were all people that helped me rather than were a hindrance. And I take, again, drainers, like everybody will have a friend out there who's a massive drainer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're in sport, business, whatever you're in. If you've got those drainer friends around you, they bring you down, and it's genuinely hard. And I had that. I mixed with people.
How do you cut them off without being ruthless?
You have to be ruthless. No, I'm sorry. Like at times we're so nice to our own detriment. And I would like to think, well, you can tell me, I don't think I'm a relatively nice person.
You are.
And I never look for any form of drama in my life. I just want a nice, comfortable, enjoyable life with people I like spending time with. But fundamentally, especially when you're growing up, I used to surround myself with not the right people at all, bad people at times. And I had to basically walk away from that. And when you're 18, 19 and you're walking away from quite strong social groups that you've had, of course, it's difficult. Now, I was fortunate because I moved into athletics, I made new friends, etc., etc. But you have to take those risks. You have to take those steps, because for that friend that they might have you might have cried in their shoulder when you were 17 and your girlfriend, boyfriend or whatever else is split up with you, if they're just taking everything away from the rest of your life, distance yourself. Because the way I see it, look, you have one life, and irrespective of what your belief systems are and whatever else, it's great. I like to lead my life as you have one opportunity here, right? It's not a test run. So if somebody is negatively affecting your life, you have to be prepared to distance yourself. You don't have to say, like, I never want to speak to you again or whatever else, but distance yourself enough to help yourself flourish, because there's nothing worse than feeling down on multiple days and having people around you that feed that bad energy. You want to put people around you who help you flourish, and I say that's every aspect. It's
trusting your gut on that as well, isn't it?
Oh,
I've had to do that with so many people through my career, for example, not necessarily so much friendships, but knowing that if you think somebody maybe isn't in it for the right reasons, they're probably not, and being strong enough in yourself to deliver on that.
Oh, massively. Look, you know you more than anybody else, right? People love to tell you what you should and shouldn't do and how you are, etc., etc. You know. And if your gut is telling you that something isn't right, and be that at work, sport, whatever it might be, once that doubt sets in, and I've had it again with coaching staff, whatever else, once the doubt was in there, it eats you alive, and you have to get out. You have to find an exit strategy, because otherwise it brings you down. And it's no good.
Because we're not islands, are we? And it's really interesting that you say that you've got to back yourself, you've got to believe in yourself, but that doesn't mean you're doing it by yourself, because you're surrounding yourself with a team of people. No, so it's not about just relying on you necessarily, is it?
No, I stood on top of a podium winning an Olympic gold medal. It wasn't just me. Dan was in the crowd, he had helped me do it. Friends and family that had supported me the whole way. Jerry Ramagita, my physio who was through that period, had done so much to help me, an incredible man. I had all these people that had influenced me in a positive way to get to that point. My roommate, Steve Lewis, who I mentioned I go to Arizona with. Andrew Steele was my closest friend, another 400-metre runner who competed in the Olympic Games and won a medal himself. Like, I surrounded myself with people that wanted the best for me, were happy for me to do well, but equally when I stepped away from the track, it wasn't purely about athletics. Had other things that we could talk about and do. And that for me, I wasn't just winning an Olympic gold medal for me, I was winning it for every single one of them. And the moment when the tears come and the understanding of what's going on, etc. It's not just, you're not going, oh yeah, I've won, well done me. You're remembering every single moment that you shared with those people that mean so much to you, and they gave up their time, they put in their effort in order for you to succeed. Because, as I say, for every single person that stands out, and every person that we've spoken to that's been successful, and every person who listens that's been successful, it's never on your own. There is always somebody there that's helped you, and it's a lovely thing when you get to share that moment with them, be that afterwards, whatever else. But to know and to appreciate the people that have genuinely helped you get to where you are.
How difficult a lesson was that to learn to shed toxic relationships? Because I've spoken to you about the friends that you mention now, and you mention them a lot just in general conversation. You clearly trust them a lot, you rely on them a lot for lots of things. But how difficult was that to get to the stage where you're surrounding yourself with the right people?
Yeah, it's very hard, because what you obviously always find is, when you would have had this massively, you would have had people that you haven't heard of from years who want to now get in contact. Oh yes, all I saw you presenting the sport on TV. Blah, blah. And
give me Greg's autograph.
Yeah. Has that ever happened?
Not yet.
Oh,
not yet. Bradley's. No, that's not true. That's not true. Actually, I have been asked recently. 2 days ago, actually, a friend said, "Oh, you're hanging out with Greg Rutherford.
All right,
Can
anyway,
you introduce us?"
I don't need any of that. But yes, you can. No, but you do have it, and you start to realize. Look, getting older is a great thing, of course, and having experience and becoming wiser is a great thing. Look, I wish I had the knowledge that I have now when I was 20, of course, and I think most of us do.
Because then you've learned from mistakes as well, surely.
Without question, if between 18 and 20, if I had the knowledge that I had now, I'd have been a multiple Olympic champion, without question. Without question. Because I would have joined Dan Path earlier, and I would have been even better.
But then your life would have gone in different directions, wouldn't it?
Course.
Those sliding doors moments.
Yeah, of course. And that's something that you never know. I don't know what that would mean for the rest of my life, but athletically, that would have been incredible. But equally, of course, there's parts I don't want to change my life as well, you see.
Yeah.
And it is a weird one, but 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 if I had the knowledge that I had there, not saying that I want to as such, I know it's a weird thing, but yeah, I mean, sportingly, I would have been far better. I'd have won far more stuff.
I mentioned sliding doors because last night over dinner, myself and you and producer Pete, as we call him, we're talking about moments that maybe have shaped our lives and could have gone one way or another. And I was fascinated, and Pete was fascinated by the version that you told of how you think your life could have gone so very different.
Yeah, look, as a kid, I was a complete prat. And if any person that went to school with me or whatever else listens to this, they'll go, yes, he was. I would like to think I was a very, very different person when I was younger. I was rebelling against so many things. I had so much going on in my head, which was very difficult for me to deal with at times. And because of that, I would do stupid things. And I went to school drunk a few times.
You went to school drunk?
Yeah, a few times. Like I'd go on benders for a few days.
From the night before or from that morning?
No, all different times, depending on what was going on. I was disruptive in class a lot when I was a kid, but I think as well, I was obviously acting up because the situation as well. I just obviously wasn't clearly massively happy, but equally, there was like an edge to me where I felt like I needed to push myself to do stupid things, and I did stupid things. And I know what you're referring to because I explained to you something that I used to do called car surfing, and
it horrifies me.
The thing is, having children now, if I heard that one of them did the sort of things that I did, I would lose my mind. But I was just a prat. I was an idiot, and I massively regret them. But I had this moment. So I used to do a thing called car surfing, like we're saying.
Explain what that is for most people who hopefully have no idea. I mean, it's self-explanatory, but yeah, go for it.
Don't do it. I'd like to think now people are far more intelligent than they were.
I'm hoping anyone who listens to this podcast is maybe screwed on enough to...
I hope so. So car surfing involved sometimes me and a mate, laying on top of a car, just holding on to the sides. So you'd have the windows down, you'd come around and hold on basically to the tops of the doors, and the driver.
So you'd be lying flat on the top and holding on one hand on each side?
Chest down, basically trying to hug the car, and then looking head forward, of course, over the window screen. And the car is driving.
So your head is hanging where?
Well, it's sort of there at the edge.
Right.
So, and you're just obviously looking forward. Now the car accelerates. Now the car that we predominantly used to do it in had a sunroof and whatever else, so the driver could obviously see you and things. We'd have the sunroof open as well, because it's another thing that you can sort of try and latch onto if you need to. And you accelerate and you drive. We used to do it down these country roads, funny enough, really close to where I live now, very close in fact. And we used to do these stupid things, challenge ourselves, whatever else, bunch of lads in a car, just being idiots basically. But I had this moment, and it's a genuinely profound moment, because people always talk about out-of-body experiences, and even though I think, like, you're an idiot. Like, some of the things they talk about, it's not an out-of-body experience. What are you talking about? And I'm not sure how much I still even believe they are a thing, but it sort of happened to me. So we're whizzing down the country road, 40, 50 mile an hour, whatever it was. And all
so I'm
of a
guessing
sudden,
you must have been about 17 if your mate was driving, or...
No, he was older. I've got an older brother. It was one of his friends. So he was older, so I was a bit young. So I was 15, 16, I think, maybe. 16, 17. Yeah, so something around that, yeah. Good, yeah. We're looking forwards, and I'm seeing this tree in the distance. I'm sort of looking at the tree, and I've now suddenly become fixated on the tree. And I'll never forget it. I've frozen, but I've frozen because in my head, all I can see is myself coming off of the car, hitting the tree, and a career that at that point nobody knew I'd have. I didn't even know I'd have. But that career not happening because I very, very badly injured myself by hitting this tree. And it was like a weird moment of panic and freezing, and I suddenly just, intrinsically in my head, I was just sort of saying, you have to stop, that this isn't going to end well. And we've done it plenty of times before, never had an issue, whatever else. But it was as if that was the realisation that what I was doing was stupid, which people might think, well, of course it was stupid. It was a ridiculous thing to do. But this moment, as I say, it was as if I was witnessing the career that I've had way before I'd had it, or the opportunity of the career that I could potentially have. And I screamed through the sunroof once I came back to again, like, stop, I need to get off. Got off the car, and of course it was like, way, wimp, whatever else. Stronger words were used. Yeah. And you sort of try and laugh it off a little bit. But I never did it again. And I never did anything like that again. I never did anything stupid like that again. I stopped entirely, and I started to, within a year or so, I'd probably moved entirely away from that social group of doing those sorts of things as well. And it's a stupid thing to do. But without that moment, I don't know. Maybe if I would have carried on, I would have come off the car and I would have hit the tree and I may have died. I may have become paralysed or whatever else, which is what I feared could happen, because I was doing something unbelievably stupid. But there was just something inside me at that time where there was maybe a bit of self-destruct going on as well, and I just wanted to do stupid things, and it was just not a good thing to be doing.
Do you have a self-destruct tendency? Do you have a button that you flip every now and again?
Look, I like a bit of danger in my life, and I think this is partly where the bobsleigh stuff comes from, maybe where sport comes from as well, because you are so exposed, you're so vulnerable at times. But there's a part of me that kind of likes that as well. And it's, look, we're in the mountains. Now, what people find, because I came from a really working class upbringing, but bizarrely we skied as well at times. So every few years, I then worked at the snow zone in Milton Keynes, and I love snow sports, I love being on the slopes. And I'll come here and hopefully I get a chance to ski while I'm out here. And I'll push myself, and I'll push myself probably to speeds and to whatever else that are quite dangerous. And if I was to fall and whatever else, I could get quite badly hurt. But for me, there's a desire to feel alive in that time and push myself. I get something from it, which you can't get from everyday life. So when I have these moments, I want to enjoy them. And equally, in sport, you have these moments because you're not always 100%. There's stress, whatever else. But the idea of pushing your body to a place where I know others probably can't ever go to, because there's so much that comes in. Look, when you step on the runway, track, whatever sport you do, often you're not 100%. Often there's issues. In the Rio Olympics, I had a torn groin. I was in unbelievable amounts of pain, and I had to overcome something. But there's a sick pleasure in doing that as well, because I knew no matter what happened. Now, I also knew if I didn't come away with a medal from that Olympic Games, I'd have got absolutely hammered, like utterly destroyed. And I was devastated with the bronze medal. Now I look back, I'm not. But there was something about that challenge that also excited me. So there's always been something there of risking myself, my reputation, whatever else, to find that thrill a little bit. It's weird. It's hard to explain.
No, I understand it though, and I think what interests me is that I think ours comes from a very different motivation. So I have anxiety, and I think sometimes I seek danger as a displacement for certain physical feelings I might have, where I seek, if I'm doing sport, I love to feel that burn, because then there's no room for anything else in my head. And it's interesting when you say about feeling alive. You know, I feel like once you open yourself to the world, then there's no room for anything else. But I don't think that comes from a place of darkness from you necessarily, or maybe it does. I guess if there's danger involved, there's always a darkness, is there?
Don't know. Now, there's always just been something about me that just wants to push myself as hard as I possibly can. And equally, when it comes to training, whatever I'm training for, if I'm just trying to make myself physically strong or whatever else, I know the things that I feel often other people can't get themselves there, because I know that there's a mental side of professional sport in particular where you have to force your mind and body into places where it's horribly unpleasant. The levels of pain. In the Rio Olympic finals, I say, the pain that I felt was horrific. Imagine having a torn groin and I'm trying to accelerate up to 11 plus meters per second and then take off on a board which is going to cause about 6-7 cubic tons of pressure and force going through my leg, the takeoff leg which had the tear, into my spine, everything else. And I know at any moment, if I get the angle slightly wrong, the whole thing can completely unravel, which is something that did have. I had to have my groin reconstructed in 2017 due to it basically coming away due to jumping and things. I mean, these are the stresses and strains, but equally, don't shy away from that. There's just something there, but I don't know if there is. Look, I would say I'm quite lucky. I think, apart from at times hating the sport and everything else, there's not been too much darkness in my life, in my head, which I think does obviously fuel certain people, and I think some of the people we've spoken to as well, that there really has been some genuinely harrowing experiences. I don't think I've had particularly harrowing experiences, but I think all of mine just stems from a desire to better myself, everything that I've come from, etc. And knowing that for me, if I push myself to those absolute limits, I've given myself every opportunity to succeed and hopefully do something special.
I find that fascinating that you say that it's not so much from darkness and you haven't had dark experiences, and you use the word lucky a lot. You say how lucky you are, but you didn't have an easy upbringing, and there are things I think that you've lived through that maybe would bring on darkness in people's heads. But are you just? Is that just? It's such a difficult question to answer because everything is so subjective. We only live our own realities. But is that just the way you're made? Do you think? Whereby I feel like you've got this sort of steel shield inside your head that sort of protects you in a way from things. I don't know. None of us are ever invulnerable, but
yeah, look, yeah, you touch it. Look, when I was younger, first thing everybody sees when they look at me is the fact that I have ginger hair. And I know it sort of sounds ridiculous, but I was quite heavily bullied in my primary school. It was something that wasn't pleasant at all, and I think that was obviously the start of where my chip came from massively. Yeah. The fact that all I had, I'm not the most intelligent human in the world. I'm very happy and comfortable to accept that. I know it's fine. I'm not book smart and whatever else. That's absolutely fine.
You say that all the time. You're very clever.
Clever's debate. I'd say I'm relatively street smart, but I'm not a particularly. I'm not that clever really. I like history. Know a bit about that, and I'm not bad at maths.
Yeah, you're good at. You corrected my maths earlier very quickly. I can't remember what mine.
But I know again. It's when I was a kid. It was difficult for me because I had a very religious upbringing. I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, which was quite difficult at times. I was then...
And you're not a Jehovah's Witness?
I'm not, no, not at all. I was then, obviously, the ginger hair, and basically it was tough. And where I always found an escape, even from a young age, is the fact that I was always faster than everybody else. Like, no matter where I went, I was always quicker than everybody. Like, that was the big thing I had, and that's why I do sport, actually. If it wasn't been for the fact that I was fast, I wouldn't... First of all, I would never have been a long jumper, but second of all, I would never have tried and taken the sports to where I took them in order to become and find long jump, if that makes sense. But what was difficult as a kid, and it's a brutal psychological battering that I used to take from the other children, would be that the only way I could ever prove myself, because I was never very confident as a kid as well, I'm
shaking my head just for the benefit of those listening to the podcast, because
far from it.
I've told you before, you're one of the most confident people I've ever met, and in a natural sense, I find, and in a positive sense, whereby you do believe in yourself.
I'm confident in myself now because I'm happy with myself. That makes sense. I know who I am, what I am, etc., and that sits fine with me. And that's it. I don't worry about probably things that I used to worry. But as a kid, I was not confident at all. And I really struggled with that. But the one thing I had was that I was quicker than people. But what then would happen is that my way of trying to prove myself would be beating everybody in a running race. The batterings of what children are like, because they're brutal. Children are brutal creatures. I'd win a race by 5-10 metres, whatever it might be, and they'll go, no, you didn't win that, so-and-so won it. And you go, what are you talking about? And it was a level of injustice that you just, but I clearly won. And it was there was never an allowance or an acceptance of me, of who I was when I was a kid, because I was different to everybody else. And because of that, the torment that I felt from it was just horrendous. I hated it, and I hated them, and I hated...
Did you hate them? Did you hate yourself?
No, I hated them. No, because the thing is, I think, and that's maybe where my resilience started to come from, with my own physical abilities. I say I was never the smartest boy, whatever else at all, but I knew physically I was gifted, and I knew I was faster than them. I knew I could do it. There's a picture of me as a child in my nursery running a running race. It's about 20 metres, and I'm about 10 metres in the lead. It was clearly there. I was a physically gifted boy, but when your peers won't allow you to, because they won't allow you to be good at anything. And it was horrible. It was genuinely hard. And I used to just cry constantly because I couldn't get rid of that frustration. And there was other frustrations in my life that developed, and it was just, when you can't get rid of that frustration and that anger that you feel, it can manifest itself in bad ways. And then I would end up fighting with people and doing that sort of stuff. And it's just because I felt as a child I was never accepted for who I was and what I was. And then then I become quite comfortable with what I am, and then become a sportsman and do that sort of stuff. And then within the world of sport, it then felt often at times that I wasn't accepted. That I think a lot of people deemed me not good enough to be winning the things that I was winning.
Why? Did they really, or did you? We've talked about this before, but
no, definitely. Look, most people that would commentate on the sport, around in the sport, whatever else, could not understand why I won. just couldn't get their head around
Why
it.
could they not understand that? If you're winning, though, that's going back to the primary school.
But it was always, and this is where, so other people, I'm not lucky in sport from the point of view of ability. I know I was good, right, and I was good. I was mentally stronger than any other jumper in the world for the period of about 5 years. That's why I became so successful in that time.
Why do you believe that, and how can you judge that?
Because I know I was, because I could beat somebody in a cool room. I already knew it. Before my World Championship final in 2015, I went in there as probably third or fourth longest jumper in the world at that time. It was all about the Americans and which American's going to win it. In my head, I'd already won it. And I knew because I could see, because when these guys are warming up, they're looking at me. And I developed a thing at a young age, 19, my first ever major, proper major, European seniors, where I won a medal. And I remember sitting in the cool room, looking around, and this is really cool, and smiling. And I was sort of looking around like really happy. Everybody else is like sort of there going, this is really stressful. Why are you smiling? And I could see them looking at me like, what does he know that I don't?
Out.
And it was, and I was like, relaxed. I just sort of sitting like this.
Little do they know, little Greg was sitting there going, I'm living my dream.
I know, exactly. But what I saw with that is that there was this level of sort of stern, like you think of like a Maurice Green, right? Okay, so and a lot of people think of sprinting, of course Usain Bolt now, but Maurice Green, the old-fashioned way, because I came through obviously the same time as Bolt, the old-fashioned way was to be walking up and down, strolling, sort of strut. There was this look, and Maurice Green had his tongue out, and it was always just this level of like, I don't know, aggression, if you like. And I very quickly saw, if you don't do that, and you're the other way, which famously the greatest track and field athlete, sprint-based anyway, of all time, had the greatest time of his life every time he competed. By doing that, it unnerved people. So I knew, as I say, I'd be in the cool room, I'd be happy as Larry. And I'd be smiling. I'd be like, right, mate, how you doing today? How's things? Feeling all right? I'm just having a chat.
And they're standing there
going, what the heck? Like, what is he doing? And you could see it first. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, fine, thanks. Yeah. How's it been going? Haven't seen you in a while. And I'd just chat. And there was a few of us that would do this because I think maybe we were confident. And some of the other guys maybe didn't win because in that period, as I say, I was predominantly winning those competitions. But that was a level again of self-confidence and belief. And I would watch them. I'll never forget the World Championship final. One of the guys did something like 10 or 12 run-throughs, full approaches on his run. Now, what you do when you get into any competition, you do a few practice run-throughs about the jump at the end. 2 or 3, and you're killing yourself a little bit, so you need to be very careful. So one of them take 10, and every time they're looking at me, trying to like figure out why is he how he is? What do I need to do? How do I beat him? And that, for me, I knew. And he was one of the main contenders. He was the person that actually most people thought was going to win that World Championships. And I knew at that point I'd beaten him. Where
then did that confidence develop from? You say that you were bullied heavily at school. It doesn't sound like you had many allies in all of that. And that wrecked your confidence. So where along that journey did the confidence come from? And I'm thinking of anyone, sitting at home and lacking in that confidence. How do you teach yourself confidence?
You find the moments which back up your theories.
Okay.
So for me,
which also actually that can work in the negative as well, can't it?
Well, of course. I mean, if your theories are terrible, then
yeah. But what I mean is that often when we're wallowing, we're picking the negative events that reinforce our belief that we're terrible or we're not good enough or somebody doesn't like us or whatever. But you're saying maybe turn it around and choose the good ones.
Yes. So look, fundamentally everybody wants to win. No matter what you do in life, you want to win. Nobody walks around going, I want to be rubbish. Nobody does that.
See, I think some people...
No, okay, even if a child, maybe if it's developed into that, and again, I always feel incredibly sorry for anybody who really struggles with that. And I know people that do struggle with not believing their own worth. But that, I think it's different. For a large portion of people, there is a point in their life where they wanted to win, they wanted to succeed. And while it doesn't mean sport, it can be absolutely anything. And sadly, yes, of course, for some, they lose that. But when you're in professional sport in particular, and maybe business, whatever it might be, and you are looking to work your way up and becomes very successful, if you have a belief system that maybe others don't, but you know it's the right thing, because again, you're listening to that inner voice, that hopefully the positive inner voice, you find these little moments which prove that you're right. So, for example, when I joined Dan, being one of the greatest coaches, as I say, in the history of sport, people in the UK, because they hated the fact that I joined an American, gave me so much stick for it. And they wanted me to fail, and they did want me to fail. Other coaches, a lot of British coaches and things. And I believed in it. I wholeheartedly believed in it. And then there was these glimmers where I'd go to a competition and I'd catch something and I'd win the competition, or I'd finish in a higher placing. Now, 2011, the year before the Olympic Games, obviously in London, I went to the World Championships, and it was the first time that I genuinely believed I could win a medal at a World Championships, become the first British long jumper to do so. And that came from the fact that there's these little moments where I would start to win things. I remember coming back and winning the Prefontaine Classic, which obviously over in Oregon, one of the really famous athletics competitions. And I won that. And that moment of winning that, when it was quite difficult, I think I went from 8th to 1st place in the final round, whatever it was. That backed up that on the day anybody can succeed. And on that day you can nail that moment, which means you succeed. So that was reinforcing the thought process that I had. I knew I was talented. If you go to an Olympic Games, you're talented, okay? And now every single person who ever goes to an Olympic Games, of course you're talented in the field that you go for. And I 100% believe that on the day, in an Olympic final, it's anybody's. I don't care if you're Usain Bolt, I don't care who you are, it's anybody's, because things can go wrong. And it can go wrong very, very quickly, and then there's always somebody waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces and go and become that new champion. And that's how I viewed it. It was reinforcing the fact that I knew I was good enough somewhere. I just needed to see these moments. So I clung on to these moments like no tomorrow. Now, the World Championships 2011, I went out in qualification with a pretty much ruptured hamstring. I had to come back from that again. Now, for anybody who knows my sort of competitive story up to London, it was just dogged with injury the whole way. I had to keep overcoming these real lows and real genuine lows in just me as a person and hating jumping at times. But again, this is where the team for me became so important. So friends, family, whatever else, they rally round you to again help keep that spark alive. And I just believed that I could be the best at some point. I just had to stick with it.
Have you used that in your post-competitive life then, or outside of athletics in particular? Because I sometimes think, in a way, although you guys obviously work incredibly hard and you put yourselves out there literally in front of a stadium of people that you could feel in front of, but it's almost easy in a way to judge success and failure. It's a very measurable life choice, if you like. But have you done that since, when, for example, I mean, these are all very public things, but when you went on MasterChef, or, Strictly Come Dancing, or moving into broadcasting, though, things that are not in your comfort zone and you don't know if you're any good at, have you used that technique there to say, well, I'll look back on that and think, oh, I made a good mousse that day, so I can cook, or whatever it might be?
Yes and no. So what I took from my sporting career into now the wider world, if you like, is my ability to turn my hand at things and work hard at them. And for me, it was obviously training when I was an athlete, and then when I've then moved into other things, that has been dedicating myself to that period of time to become good at something. Now, look, MasterChef Strictly was a very difficult. I was rubbish at it. I tried really hard.
This is why I want to dance off with you. I think I might beat you in dancing.
I don't know. You've got a lot of energy. But I don't know. I feel like I might have kept the odd secret move. Who knows? But no, it's one of those things that. So MasterChef is a great example for me. I worked incredibly long hours to become as good as I could at that, because I went into it not really knowing an awful lot at all. And everybody expects that they give you loads of help on the show. None. They give you no help. It's up to you to go and develop and learn. So I spent every waking moment that I was at home and I wasn't in the studio practicing. And that my mindset, and it was very easy to flick it back. And it was as if I was training for a competition again, because I had to do this. I had to put in the work, because if I wanted to have a good outcome, you have to put the work in. This is the other big thing. Often you put a lot of the work in and it takes a lot of time to do it. But if you're not putting the work in, you're not going to succeed. That's the big thing. So it doesn't matter what you do. I've managed to take that work ethic that I developed as an athlete and put it into everyday life. Now, when it comes to, say, broadcasting, now I knew from 19, when I retired, that's what I wanted to do, because I watched what happened around me and when I was being interviewed, and I found it amazing, from the person working the camera to the sound person to the person asking me the questions. The whole concept of what they were doing I found fascinating. So whenever I had an interview, I would always talk as much as I possibly could because I wanted to be around it. I'd shut up most of the time. And I think
that's just your life, really.
Well, that's true, yeah, as everybody's finding out again now. But it's something that then when I want to work, I want to learn. Now, what I find fascinating, absolutely fascinating, is if I'm covering the Olympic Games or something like that, and I say to somebody, how was it? What could I improve? First reaction you get, and you'll get this all the time. It was amazing. It was great.
Yeah.
And okay, look, you're far more professional than I am anyway. So you are amazing, great. That's great. But for someone like myself,
it's not useful.
I can't. I can't. I hate it. I hate being told when I know that I'm not the best at something. Yeah. That it was great and it's perfect, whatever. Because
you need something to work on.
No, but you can't also go through life just being told that everything's wonderful and great, because if you're not, you're never going to work on your flaws. So again, have the confidence in understanding that you have to learn at things. You have to be willing
and be
to
humble enough, I guess, as
well. You have to be just willing to ask questions. Of course, that just because I was good at jumping into a sandpit doesn't mean that I'm going to be good at talking about it on TV as well. And I appreciate that probably some people listening go, "You're not good at it, pal," which is absolutely fine. But for me, it's a desire to learn and challenge myself. And as we were talking about earlier, stress myself in these situations, which I know some people would hate the idea of, because I know at times there's potentially millions of people waiting for me to stumble over a word or waiting for me to say something wrong or whatever else. And I love it.
Yeah, the terror of live television is so hard to beat, isn't it?
It's the best feeling. And there's nothing like, because you've lived it far longer than I have, but when you step away from it, the high fives that go around and the fist bumps and everything else when you go off air, you've been super professional and done everything. It's the greatest feeling because you've nailed something again. And it's something that is quite hard. And for me, it can give me a similar thrill to what I faced as an athlete. And I think that's why I want to keep doing it as long as I possibly can. That's why I enjoy doing it.
You mentioned hard work and you've mentioned your mentality. If you were to take the ingredients of success, where would you rank hard work, the right mindset and natural talent? What's the most important thing, do you think?
A lot of people have talent in the world. It's understanding how to utilise that talent. Now, I think the other misconception that we have to move away from, which is very difficult at times for people to understand, is that you don't have to kill yourself in order to succeed in life, right? So you don't have to work yourself to the bone. You don't have
also, it's counterproductive, surely, isn't it? We need to move. You're totally right. Our society has become so focused on that and working and beasting ourselves as hard as possible.
At all times. And the bizarre rhetoric that British athletes had for a period of time, during my career, which was, well, whatever the others are doing who are winning, let's double it and then we'll become even more successful. I mean, it's utter madness to think that just by absolutely slogging your guts out you will have success. Something I've talked about a lot, and myself and again my best friend Andrew Steele, we sort of talked about this a lot, is something that we refer to as like life and performance, right? So if you can find that balance between having a relatively happy life. Now that means indulging in some of the things that you want to indulge in, right? So if there's something that you're interested in, spend time doing it. Spend time not doing the thing that is your life as such, but something that just enriches you. So there could be whatever it is. So you might like painting model tanks. I don't know, whatever it is. But do that. No, not massively.
No, okay.
I get really frustrated with paint. Like when I paint a wall, it drives me nuts.
Why?
So it's a terrible example. Oh, I can't do it.
Oh, I love it. I find it so therapeutic.
Because I'm a perfectionist. And if I see any form of... Anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, find that balance between what makes you happy and what also challenges you as well. Because once you're happy in your general life and once you are allowing yourself to have these moments of effectively switching off and indulging what you want to do, then when you go back to the thing that you have to work hard at, it becomes a lot easier because your brain is focused, you're ready, you feel physically and mentally refreshed enough to go back into it. So something for me during my career, I was really into coffee. Me and Andrew got trained as baristas back in 2012 after the games because I love coffee. I like reading about coffee, I like making coffee, all of those sorts of things. And I know it's a bit sad, equally for me history is a massively important part of my life. I love watching the History Channel, Discovery, whatever it'll be, predominantly Discovery. And for me... It's
very good. You've got a long career in broadcast ahead of you.
And it's something that I love, that I know little things about history or whatever, because it's something I enjoy. I don't have to go around telling everybody, but I like it. I like being in a place like Cortina now, and I like looking around and imagining the people that were once here And imagine what it took to create this and what it was like 200 years ago or whatever, and thousands of years ago, etc. And because of that, I'm stepping away from the stresses and strains that may take up large parts of my life, and it refreshes me into a feeling of I can go back into that and I can work damn hard at it, because I know when I switch off I can help myself. So finding that life and performance mix is so incredibly important. And genuinely, life is stressful. It genuinely is stressful. No matter what you do, it's stressful. No matter what your job is, it's stressful at times. So find those moments and find those things that you enjoy to put a smile back on your face. And then when you go back to the things that are stressful, they're that little bit less stressful. And that's a hugely important thing. It doesn't matter if you're stepping in front of 80,000 people in an Olympic final, stepping in front of your boss to pitch a new idea, or just getting out of bed in the morning. Whatever you find difficult in life, find the things that make you smile, so it makes the difficulties that bit easier.
And it's getting very late here in Cortina. Not very late, but the sun's gone down. It's getting very cold.
I'm cold, yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I know, I can see you shivering, which is why, though, when you mention your love of history, it brings me nicely to the last thing I wanted to ask you, which is you say about things being built 200 years ago, whatever it might be. I always think, or often think, I guess, anyone who achieves any level of greatness in life, they often do it because, or part of it is that they want to be remembered. But obviously 200, 300, 500 years time, your name might still be on a book somewhere, or, you know, digitally as having won everything that you've won, records, whatever. Ultimately, none of us will be remembered in the grander scheme of history. Is that a liberation, or is that something that you fight?
It is what it is, really. Look, from my point of view...
Do you want to be remembered? Do you need to be remembered?
I don't know if I need to be remembered, to be totally honest. I think it's nice at this point to be remembered for doing that physical thing that I worked incredibly hard at and had all the stresses and strains like I've mentioned. Now, yes, that's a lovely thing to be reminded of, but look, when you're not here anymore, it doesn't matter. Look, the most liberating thing that I found in life is that fundamentally the stresses and strains that I have don't matter to everybody else. And as big as they are for me, and they matter to me, of course they do, but in 100 years' time, nobody will care. And
in 100 days' time, probably
completely,
even.
And probably I won't care as well to certain things that are stressing me out today. And once you start thinking about that, you can start, I think, opening your mind a little bit more as well, and actually just start taking things in and enjoy it. And as I say, for me, I take look. We are in the mountains, right? And I have to say, I get like an extra level of energy from being in the mountains. Something about being in the mountains. Now, I was brought up religious, as we touched on, and a lot of people, listeners, will probably be very religious. I don't see myself as religious as such anymore. But what I do find, which I find kind of interesting, is that I feel myself more a bit like a druid in a way, because I take so much from the world, from beautiful scenery, the mountains in particular, running water, all of that. That sort of gives me a level of vigour, which makes me want to keep pushing, keep going, keep experiencing things. That, for me, is what's really, truly important. And fundamentally from that, from being happy, from having this inner peace that I'd like to think I have for large parts of my life, I get to put that onto my children, who will probably be remembered longer than me, because they'll be around a lot longer than I will. And as long as, because I can find a level of inner peace, as long as when they think of me, and maybe my grandchildren, whatever it is, as long as when they think of me, they think he was a good guy and he was a loving father and everything else, that for me is probably the most important thing that I now see as my job in life. And that's something that I hope more than anything else, that's what I'm remembered for the time that I am. Maybe, I mean, if they live 500 years, that they're doing something very right. So that probably won't. But no, I'd say, like, being remembered for something is great. Just being remembered for being a generally good chap, I think, is the most important thing in life.
A great legacy to have. A generally good chap and a big ginger druid. Thank you, Greg. Let's go get warm.
Thank you. Okay, right, so Orla, what's very important, forget everything else that's been said, is our long-standing feud.
Which one?
And it is, well, yeah, the current one that's associated to this podcast, of course, which is our rock, paper, scissors.
Yes.
I've won some, you've won some. Now this is just us. We don't have a guest
to
create the three-way with.
I'm getting
now
nervous.
the pressure is truly on.
Yeah.
So we're going to go best out of 3 as always.
I think we should, yeah.
And we're going to see who can become today's champion.
We're going rock, paper, scissors, go. The problem is it's so cold now in Cortina. The sun's gone down, the moon is out. My hand is a bit frozen.
Yeah.
So that's
No
my
excuse.
excuse.
Right, okay.
I was trying to get to scissors from rock.
Can't have them all. Right, okay, so.
Okay.
Are we ready to go for this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, go. Oh, we both went scissors. Oh, dear.
Hang on, okay.
Okay, we have to. This is a podcast, so us squealing into a microphone doesn't tell
That's a good
anyone
point.
what we got. So that was
Let's
two
just start
scissors.
again. Let's just start again. So
that was 2 scissors,
And then
it was a
scissors and
scissors and a paper. I got the scissors, Greg got the paper, and now
Okay.
I've lost my flow. So go,
Okay,
go,
it's
go. 1, 2, 3.
That was
sugar!
paper from
That was
Greg
paper
over a bit of rock. Here we
so
are.
we're even Stevens.
And this is it.
This is it. This is the decider.
Is it.
Okay.
Oh,
two
my
rocks!
Ready? Let's go. Let's go.
Okay.
Oh, 2 scissors. Oh, this is the best one yet. This is the best one yet.
This is terrible.
Okay, here we go.
Okay,
here we go.
2 scissors. Ready, go.
Oh! 2 rocks. Okay.
2 rocks.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay,
I
here
can't
we
go
go.
for what I want to go
Here
for.
we go, come on.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Oh!
What is going
Oh
on
no,
here?
this is weird.
Papers
This
as
is
well.
weird.
Okay.
We both went paper. I feel sick.
Look how into this you get.
Oh, I can't stand
Every
it.
time we do this.
Because I'm preempting what you're going to go for
Okay,
next.
here we go.
Okay, right. Okay, ready? Okay, go. 1, 2, 3, go. I was going to do scissors. My hands were frozen.
So for anybody listening, obviously I've celebrated. That would be because I just won.
He got paper.
won.
I my hand was frozen in rock.
Yeah.
I've got a condition.
Anyway, so nobody cares. So thank you ever so much, Orla. That would be
I was trying
me
to stretch my
winning.
fingers
That'd be me
into-
winning today. Thank
into
you.
scissors.
Well done.
Congratulations, Greg. Whatever. It's not good enough to just be Olympic champion. You've got to beat me in rock, paper, scissors.
Only today.
Only today.